We're three docs talking about the breakdown. Well, we are here back in studio. Dr. Krissy Ladner, our sports nutrition expert, Dr. John Heiss, also a sports nutrition expert, a PhD in biochemistry. And I think we are getting back into protein. Now, we had discussed protein. We like to talk offline about protein and its foundational effects and how it's great in the body as red blood cells and muscle and bone and hair and all this stuff and skin. But we wanted to talk in this episode, I really wanted you guys to discuss protein and performance for athletes. So first I want to kick it off. We know you got the big brains. We know you guys are both athletes and you work with athletes, but I wanted to ask you personally, in terms of protein for performance in your experience. So, Krissy, I want to go first to you. You've worked with pro athletes, whether they're soccer players, football players. What are some of the sources of protein that you often recommend, and what are the amounts? Just give us some general sort of context.
Yeah. Well, I mean, always looking at food sources first and what variety. So animal, plant, just getting a good mix. And then, of course, in supplements, because it's hard to eat enough protein in food, especially at certain sports, high-level sports. Whey and casein, again, getting a blend. And then I think just tracking that throughout the day, like we talked about, making sure that you're getting it consistently and not being too rigid, where it's stressing you out. And you're also being mindful of getting a variety and getting enough.
Right. Cool. John, I've known you a long time. I know you're like some high-level category cyclist in your heyday. You're like kind of, pretty much a pro or elite. What do elite cyclists in your ecosystem, in your world, what kind of protein sources do they use and how much do they use?
Yeah, I mean, protein sources, I think people are getting a little bit away from focusing on just the protein source. Again, we talked a lot about getting that total daily intake.
Right.
There's some nuance in terms of, whey or plant and the speed of digestion, but I think it's a little bit secondary. But I think still a lot of people, they'd like to get, let's say, a faster digesting protein source, maybe after a workout. So they kind of lean on whey. And then throughout the day, like Krissy said, whole foods is generally a good thing. And then they might add some other protein supplement. And that really could be a mixture of plant-based, animal-based combinations. I think not quite as critical. Endurance sports have a little bit of a different challenge is because during competition, especially at the high level, it's really difficult to eat any protein. Actually, it's a little bit detrimental to be eating protein during performance.
So why is that? Because I imagine you're putting gasoline in the car. So the gasoline is the fuel for the car. So you're putting carbs in the body, and you don't want to throw protein in there at the same time?
Yeah. So it's really interesting. So, as you get higher in the sport level, the intensities go up, and the limiting factor is how much carbs you can build. So if you're putting protein, you're diluting the gasoline, the high carbs with protein. So it's actually a bit detrimental to performance, especially as intensity goes up. So you're thinking pro level sport. Guys that are doing, people that are doing lower intensity sports, maybe ultra marathons or just casual workouts, the body's more forgiving. You can have you could actually have protein and carbs in a gym workout, and it's not going to compromise your workout. So there's a lot of nuance as you move through the sports.
Right. It's very cool. I wonder if there's so there's no real fear like an endurance cyclist or runner they don't think they're going to bulk up with protein, but it's literally just the absorption. They just can't displace that carb that they're putting in their body. Right?
So you got a couple of things. You got getting the number one goal is you want to get the carbs out of the gut to be used for energy. Now, if you're putting protein there, it's kind of challenging the gastric emptying. And number two, as we talked about in another episode here, is your body actually has to work to digest that protein. And you don't want your body wasting energy on digesting the protein during that performance. You want it putting out energy.
Makes sense.
As, motion.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, good. Because it's a little personal stuff I wanted to kick it off with. Okay, how about protein recommendations? Let's get into sort of the amounts. We talked before about protein numbers, hitting a protein number. There's some basic recommendations for athletes, whether endurance or strength. What are some general recommendations based on body weight? And you can be very general. It doesn't have to be super specific.
Yeah. My brain works in grams per kilogram, so we're going to have to translate this.
That's
but
cool.
I think, so if I'm working with, it really depends. So if I work a lot with rugby, and the positions change based on body type, really. So if you have somebody in a larger body who needs a lot of force power, they might need or strength training athlete, right? They're going to need higher amounts of protein because they have higher muscle mass,
Sure.
right? And they have more repair work and muscle protein breakdown and synthesis going on. Whereas if I'm working with like a ballet dancer, they want to maintain what they have, of course, and they want to make sure they're staying in a positive balance of protein, but they need to have not so much to where they're bulking up, if you will. But that really is dependent on the strength training as well. So we can tell you how much protein to have, which is going to be between around averaging here 1.2 to like 2.2 grams per kilogram.
Okay.
However, again, it's also your body's not going to necessarily use that protein for muscle mass building unless you are doing the training, telling your body where to build muscle. So it's not just how much to have a day, it's your sport and the training type that you're doing as well.
Makes sense.
Let's go into that a little bit deeper because you made a good point about the workout training. So I think protein consumption is a trigger to have net protein building, but actually the bigger trigger is actually resistance training and physical activity. So it's like those two signals together. So I mean, I think that ballet example is an interesting one.
It's a great example. Yeah, it doesn't matter if which type of athlete.
Talk a little more about. She doesn't want to bulk up. So, like, strike that balance a little more clear.
Yeah. Well, gosh, there's so much that can go into that too, because the behavioral and the aesthetic aspect that comes from what a air quotes, if you're listening, ballet dancer should look like, that comes into it as well. So not to say that if you have high protein and your strength training that you will bulk up. Like that's genetics, that's your training, that's like there's so many different nuances involved in that. And I think you want to balance all of your nutrients, all of your macronutrients with the training amount, your calories, right, to sustain the type of force production and the skill work that you're doing. So for a ballet dancer, we might do, well, it really depends too. It depends on their training schedule, on how much they're having a day. For her, thinking of like a hypothetical one, it would be maybe like 1.4 to 1.5. And you talked about eating enough, and how it can maybe the absorption can be a little funky too. So thinking with ballet, especially professional ballet, they are training and they might have like 15 minutes to eat. And so I'm thinking, well, certain protein sources are going to be a lot better for you because we got to get it in. We can't go 8 hours without having it, or you're going to get into muscle wasting, atrophy. So there's so many different things to think about the higher caliber you get. But if you're not a professional athlete, eating consistently and staying within a close range day to day and putting that force resistance on your muscles is going to keep that going for you. It's going to be fine.
Really interesting. And I think now it gets into a little bit, so you guys are talking a little bit about protein timing here, and I want to get into sort of like the time at which, so whether, I think the take-home point that you're both making, whether you're a pro athlete, rugby player, big guy, or a lean ballet dancer, tremendous amount of work being done on the body. You need to recover. You need to rebuild. You can't just breathe air, drink water, and build your protein. You need to consume protein. I think we understand that, right? Yeah. So we've got the amount. And now what about the timing? I want to get into the timing a little bit. And I also want to ask about specific amino acids, which are really important for this muscle protein synthesis. So in terms of the window, we call it the anabolic window, like that recovery. When's the best time to consume protein after a workout?
Yeah. So, we put some time in to prepare for these episodes, right? Because we can't just rattle this stuff off. And, I wanted to make sure we're looking at the latest literature because the science does evolve. And I think there's kind of this older thinking. It kind of originated probably early 2000s, late 90s around this, like, you have to have protein 30 minutes after a workout. It was this anabolic window. And it was, if you didn't drink your protein shake, you wasted your workout.
It's 31 minutes. I'm over the window.
I was trying to go back to figure like, where did that come from and what does the science actually say? And so those older studies, what they were looking at was like this very acute window, and they had people come in fasted. So they were kind of they hadn't eaten since the night before. The available amino acids, these are the building blocks we talked about, in their blood were already low. And so when they didn't drink a shake or protein shake right after workout, they didn't see the gains compared to those who did have the protein
it's like they're
shake.
Thirsty. Their muscles were really thirsty.
But you're kind of having this like comparison of like artificially low to providing amino acids. Right. And that's not really how people work out. Very few people from a performance wake up totally in a fasted state, low blood amino acid levels. Most people have some maybe they had breakfast, maybe they had a pre-workout thing, you're going to have some reasonable levels of amino acids. And so now what happens is if you have the protein shake, immediately after, within 30 minutes, or even several hours later, the effects are actually quite a bit smaller.
Right.
The difference is quite a bit smaller. So the important thing is the timing is less important if you have any food kind of in your system.
Right.
What matters the most is, again, hitting that total daily protein target, call it, 100, 150, whatever grams it is, depending on the body size, like you talked about. So I think that's super interesting of kind of the nuance of the science of,
Yeah.
are you looking at just this very narrow window, or is it like a 24 to week long cycle, which is much more practical?
Right, right. And just so if anyone's listening in and they're like, wait, what's a protein what's this anabolic window?
Yeah.
In theory, it's as soon as you, whether it's a rugby workout or an endurance cycling, you're cycling 100 miles, as soon as you finish, the idea was you only had 30 minutes, or optimally had 30 minutes to really get some protein in at the end of the workout, right? That's the idea. But now, to John's point, you really have an extended period. It could be a few hours, or it could be really throughout the day.
Yep.
Your body's going to do a great job of absorbing and repairing, right?
Yeah, and there's so much nuance here. If you get to like the pro sport world, and if you have a long competition, you think Tour de France or something,
Sure.
You've got limited time from when a race ends to getting to sleep, and these guys are trying to get replenish their glycogen and protein. So they're generally going to kind of eat pretty quickly. Right. But for, let's think of a working individual. He's going to the gym after work. Maybe he had lunch. He's got some amino acids in his blood. Like, he's going to get home and have dinner. He doesn't need to be slamming a protein shake in the car immediately. There's a little more forgiveness.
That's
there.
important, though.
Yeah.
You don't have to. I mean, you can, but you don't have to.
You can. I just, I think, again, people are going to lose kind of the forest for the trees here. I think total protein intake. Shakes are great. We love getting protein in right away. But, I think the timing is a little less important than we thought it used to be.
Yeah.
I want to come back to you, our resident biochemist, on something called leucine in a second. But I want to go to Krissy and ask about really timing throughout the day. I mean, you mentioned the ballet dancer, you mentioned the rugby players. Really, any athlete. What were some basic, take-home recommendations someone could have in terms of like, okay, what should I reach for if I'm buying something in the market? You just mentioned shakes. I drink shakes every day. I know you guys love protein shakes. Yeah. We love the shake culture. We're all into it. What are some other things in addition, whether it's a protein bar or oatmeal, or things that people can kind of, stagger throughout the day to make sure they're getting protein?
Yeah, definitely love a shake, because there's so much individualization you can do to it, right? So you can do milk or water or whatever it be, add fruit to it. But yeah, I think things that are on the go, easy, non-perishable. So I love some yogurt, and you don't want that in your purse all day, right? So nuts, seeds, granola bars are great. I'm a big fan of cheese.
That's great. You can mix it up. You got this whole variety.
But yeah, so we're wanting to, knowing that anabolic window, I think I read somewhere that it's more like a garage door. I thought that was funny.
That's cool.
But like, when I was reading that, I was like, wow, garage door, when you you press the button and it starts closing, you have to run through. Right. So I was like, oh no, it's still like fast. Like, no, it's just bigger. Right, so it's not a window, it's a door now. So we have a wider window to be eating it. You want to be eating it consistently. But the other thought too, I was thinking about is, like, yes, it's not dire that you get it in within that 30 minutes. However, if you think about your day, if you don't want to eat too close to working out, because we want to have some time for digestion. I'm not feeling a little funky while we're working out. And so that's maybe an hour before. And then let's say you work out for an hour, hour and a half, whatever it be. And then by the time you kind of wind down and you finish, you're kind of already in that like 60-minute window. Right. So you still do want to eat after. It's just not for the reasons we thought. It's not because your body absolutely has to have it.
Shut down.
It's because if you want to be eating consistently throughout the day. So having things on the go with you all the time, that's going to be really important.
Very cool. All right. Wanted to get into leucine because I know this is a topic that biochemists and dietitians love. What is it and why is it important?
So
keep it kind of, remember, a lot of folks tuned in are like, I have no idea. Is a friend's name Leucine? What does this mean?
We love to try to make complex biological things simple here in this podcast. But so we talked about, protein's this macronutrient. Protein's made up of building blocks. They're called amino acids. There's sort of 20 that the body uses that are involved in structural tissues. One of them is called leucine. Now, we made a good analogy about bricks on a house, right? If you're building a house, you might have your regular building blocks, but maybe some bricks are special because they make up the corners of the building, or think of like a keystone above an archway. Like,
That's a great point.
you don't have many of those bricks, but they're super important because they have a certain structural property. So leucine is kind of this special amino acid that acts as a signaling molecule. So it's used to build muscle. So it's building the house, but it also is kind of a signal that, like, when the workers, let's say, see this particular brick, it says, hey, you know what? We're gonna have to build something complex. Let's go get more workers. So it's a call for help from the body to turn on the muscle building machinery. That signaling molecule is called mTOR. It's got a long history.
Getting specific.
Target of rapamycin. But anyway, so leucine is kind of this interesting amino acid because if you have too little of it, it doesn't quite recruit all the protein building machinery. And so there's this kind of this thing called the leucine threshold where and this is kind of where some of those, you need to get at least 20 or 30 grams of protein because let's say you have maybe 5 or 10% leucine, that's going to give you about 3 grams. So people...
Is that the magic number that we should talk about?
Sort of the magic number is 3 grams of leucine, but no one's really looking at 3 grams of leucine on a package. Most companies don't even list it out. So generally, if you get, let's say, 30 grams of protein from a decent protein source or mixed bag, you might get 3 grams of leucine. So that's kind of like the magic number.
Okay.
Now, there's some nuance in there for an older population. We're talking about this. If you're older, like elderly, and you're facing muscle loss, your body's not as sensitive to that. So you might need to actually get a little more protein. Maybe need 40 grams of protein to get enough leucine to turn on the muscle synthesis.
This is very important. So I want to break down what you said, which is beautiful. You guys are really waxing poetic on this, which is great. But so if you're having a steak or if you're having some quinoa, rice, beans, whatever, if you're having, let's say, 30 to 40 grams in a setting at a meal, you're most likely going to get probably 2 to 3 grams of leucine, if you have a good variety. However, if someone's really using a lot of supplements, they can reach for, let's say, a protein shake, which will probably have that 2 to 3 grams of leucine, or maybe some branched chain amino acids, which will have the leucine included, right? So I think it's important for the folks tuning in, try and get a wide variety of foods, like you've been saying, Dr. Krissy and John, or if you can get a supplement, it's going to most likely have that leucine. But 2 to 3 grams is like the key that unlocks the lock that kind of opens up this protein synthesis, right?
Yeah, and I think, you brought up a good thing, these BCAAs or branched chain amino acids.
And what are those? Can you?
I feel like they've kind of
pitching you a softball, but
fallen out of vogue a little bit, where they used to kind of be all the rage. And because these BCAAs, these branched chain amino acids, there's 3 of them. One of them's leucine. You also got isoleucine and valine, and those are kind of these 3 that sort of turn on the machinery. And so, but if you turn those on and you don't, let's go back to the brick analogy. If you bring the workers to start building the house and you have just the corner bricks, you don't have all the other bricks, the square bricks to go to the house, the workers are like, hey, what are we going to do? So BCAAs on their own, in the absence of good protein, don't do a whole lot. And if you have good protein, BCAAs can kind of make sure you get over that leucine trigger threshold. So, it's a little bit out of context. Like, I don't think BCAAs, like, they're necessary, but let's say they're not sufficient to do the work.
Gotcha.
Right?
You still need the breadth of wide variety of fruits, of foods, different protein sources. And of course, if you're using supplementation, like we said, we all love shakes. Some people may use protein bars, protein oatmeal, whatever. But, whatever that is, you're most likely going to find the leucine in there. But if you do have a branched chain amino acid supplement, all good, go for it. Just get it in with the totality of your diet.
It almost essentially makes, like, protein, like, more powerful, sort of, if you think about that. If you only have 20 grams, you had BCA, it's probably like you're going to get a little more net protein synthesis. But, one thing, going back to these shakes, for pro athletes or people really training a lot, like, it's such a great way to get good protein in right away. And I was living with, he was on the World Cup cycling, mountain biking circuit.
Of course. And so why wouldn't you?
I kind of got him on shakes because it just wasn't like a thing he was doing. And so think about it, you get back from a big ride or a big workout, like, it's hard to not only cook a chicken breast, but eat it. Right. But all of a sudden now you can get 40 grams of protein. He's adding berries and milk and nuts and seeds. And so now you're getting calories, carbs, you're getting great protein, and it's easy to drink. It tastes good. So it's such a useful tool for that performance athlete.
Actually, sorry.
Go for it.
So I was thinking about that too. So yes, the ease of it and the accessibility. But I talk a lot about with my athletes, when you're exercising, you're forcing your body into this sympathetic, stressed system. So your body is shunting the blood to the muscles, the heart, the lungs. It doesn't want to do a lot of digestion at that time. And that lasts a little bit. So when we talk about that anabolic garage door now that we talk about,
like the garage door.
your metabolic rate is high. You're still kind of in this sympathetic nervous system. And so you may not be hungry for a period of time after. And that can be really hard to get something in. And having something like a shake that's easy, ready to go, it gives you hydration as well. It can be a lot easier on the gut to digest. So there's other like gastrointestinal benefits to having a shake as well.
I love it. Yeah,
That's actually,
go for it.
Well, you mentioned a good thing, this sympathetic thing. So if anyone's measuring like HRV with a heart rate monitor or wrist strap or something, but I can I love zone 2 training, right? And so for those who are working out at high intensity, you're right. Your sympathetic nervous system is so elevated. You might do a 4-hour workout at high intensity, you come back and you're just not hungry. Whereas if you do a low intensity workout for 3 hours, you are ravenously hungry because you haven't spiked all these like sympathetic nervous system things. So you've got these hunger signals.
That's really interesting. Look, I want to just close up this amazing episode because we can just go on for hours. But I do want to describe a protein shake because a lot of folks don't understand, you especially with your dietetic background, what goes into a protein shake in the context of protein. Okay, so when we get a protein in a steak or milk or whatever, chicken, there's other stuff in there. There's fat, there's sugar, there's sugar in milk, right? So then what ends up in the shake, you'll see stuff that says isolate, like it's, whatever type of protein, whey or casein. Why is a protein shake so sensible, so practical in terms of what you and John were just saying? You can put all the other things in there, but at its basis, what is like a protein isolate? What does that mean?
So that's really, it's isolating the protein from a food source, right? So it's the raw, pure form of a protein. And there's different types, right? So we talk about whey or casein, and that's really just where it came from. You can think of it that way. And we don't only want protein, just like John was saying earlier. We need different bricks.
Greens,
so I don't know, I guess the carbs and fat would be like the wood and stucco.
I love it. I like it. Yeah, we're building a house.
I've never built a house, but I'm thinking that. So we need all of it. They all work together. You can't just have one. They're not going to function appropriately. So in a protein shake, we're really looking at having all of those in the right percentages, which of course there's a little flexibility in there for person to person. But we want to make sure that we're having all of the nutrients that are going to work together so they can function the way they're intended. And isolating protein is going to be great because it's going to be digested a lot easier. And especially in that post-exercise period, your gut still may not be feeling great, or maybe you want protein to be absorbed quickly or more slowly. So it really depends on your needs, on the type of protein you have.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, I want to tie the episode up. I don't know if there's any myth busting that you guys want to do. One of the big myths that I've heard since we were in school is that a higher protein amount, we've discussed this in the past, can really harm the body, particularly the kidneys and the liver. And that's really been dispelled in high-functioning, able-bodied individuals who don't have kidney or liver issues. People can go at it with their protein. And that's why I think the recommendations have kind of moved up gradually over the last 30 years. So I don't know if there was any myths that you guys wanted to dispel, or maybe your practical take-home points for anyone tuned in on protein. Maybe you guys can throw something out and we can tie this episode up.
I think practical take-home point myth, I'm not sure what you want to call it, but I generally see, and I work a lot with endurance athletes, I generally see endurance athletes, they get adequate carbs, but they generally undereat on protein a little bit. Just it's less available. They don't crave it as much. But then the gym guys, they generally are so focused on protein.
They over-index.
They get more than adequate protein, but then they're not eating enough carbs. I think there's some probably fear of, gaining weight or something like that. But so I think they're shortcoming possible performance gains by under-eating on carbs. And so I see, it's kind of these opposite groups in there. So I think, I think it's eating for your sport and making sure you're getting kind of that right balance. And if you think about that shake, like there's a spectrum of, purely protein to like higher carb. And so I think as an athlete, you need to move through that spectrum and making sure you're matching let's say the macronutrient ratios depending on that training need. And it might change from day to day or throughout the season.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. What about you, Dr. Krissy? What do you think?
I say this all the time, so I'm just going to repeat it. I always say more protein doesn't inherently equal more muscle. it's not this magic Popeye spinach situation. You have to do the work for you to tell your body, right? I'm sure we've all heard if you don't use it, you lose it. And I don't love that saying, but really when you think about your body is going to put in the muscle to sustain the effort that you continuously do. So if you're a weightlifter, if you're a ballet dancer, if you're a cyclist, the muscles that you're training, the protein's going to help sustain and to build those. So I want to dispel the myth that just because you eat higher protein or because you lift, you're going to bulk up. It's really dependent on so many different things. So I don't want, especially females, I don't want them to be scared to have enough protein. It's super important. And also you have to strength train in order to tell your body how to use it.
Very cool.
Do you have any myths to dispel?
Yeah, I mean, besides the one that I mentioned about, higher protein is going to really damage, I think the important thing, and you guys touch on this, is really the protein timing throughout the day. And I love the things that you guys have both brought up. If you're having like a 70-gram steak, the myth years ago was like, man, half of that's just not going to get used. It'll go in and get converted into something bad. But now we know the body's super smart. It knows how to utilize all those amino acids that get broken down and reassembled to build that house with the bricks that you guys have been talking about. So I love it.
Love that one.
This is great. Well, you guys, we can go on and on. I really appreciate 3 docs sitting around the table. Dr. Krissy Ladner, our sports nutrition expert. Dr. John Heiss, our resident biochemist. You guys have worked with tons of athletes, so I really appreciate all of the context that you bring to this conversation. I'm Dr. Luigi Gratton, and until the next episode, appreciate you guys.
Yeah, see you next time.
Thank you. We're 3 docs talking about the breakdown.